victims just like me, victims of nuclear tests. After going through that website, I'm convinced you will think about the importance of nuclear weapon-free world. My goal in life is to make sure that I'm the last victim of nuclear testing in this world. This project, Ada, I think we need to bring as many people as possible to become a force against nuclear testing. Kazakhstan already showed a great example. It's one of few countries which gave up their nuclear weapons. I would like to call upon all the people and all countries which continue their militarization and weapons. Please think about consequences. Think about children which are born sick and ill. I would like to thank you for this opportunity to speak here today. I don't have hands, but I would like to give a handshake to each and every one of you. I would like to thank you for gathering here and for raising this issue.
If I may just follow up with one quick question, in what results you have seen in terms of how the people of Kazakhstan have responded to the atom project. I know it's still very young, it's a very recently launched project. How much real will do you think there is to follow up on this ideal within Kazakhstan? And then how can you expect the rest of the world to listen? What would you suggest to make the rest of the world listen?
Well, first of all, if you visit the website, you will see that there won't be even enough space for people's signatures. These are people who signed the petition. People living in Kazakhstan believe in the future. They understand that we have this peacekeeping mission. They share this value which will benefit their children. To prevent people and children like me from being born, it's important that more and more people join and hear us and bring their efforts with us.
We have two themes running here. The issue of the current tensions between Iran and much of the West and its allies, and of course the whole issue of a non-nuclear world initiative that's been raised in Kazakhstan. So I do want to take questions, and Mr. Basil there actually has his hand up quickly, so we will get you a microphone now. And please put your hands up clearly so I can see them, so I can get to them in the order in which they go up. But please do join in. So please, we'll pass you a microphone. It's coming to you now.
Basil Khadjasem, telecanal Al Arabiya.
Al Arabiya TV channel. I would like to ask about the prospects of negotiations 5+1. Astana suggested to host these negotiations in Astana. What are the prospects of those negotiations?
Perhaps, is this something I could put to Mr. Sergei Dyachenko, if you have any views on this?
I can say the following thing. In the global process, we can see the stagnation. Let's recognize that. Therefore, in this line, the initiative of our President Nazarbayev is really important. He came up with a number of important initiatives about adoption of the Universal Declaration for the Nuclear-Free World and the Agreement on Horizontal and Vertical Non-Proliferation and placement of the International Nuclear Bank in Kazakhstan under the aegis of IAEA. It's very important. These initiatives are not hanging in the air. Practical work is being done on that.
Perhaps I can get back to Mr. Mehmanparast and back to this issue of the tensions with the West. What do you see as the next step to move things forward? You have said that Iran has clearly stated its intention not to have any nuclear weapons capability, but there's obviously a disconnect with certainly America and the West in general, certainly America and its allies. What do you suggest as the next step, and how can you move the process forward as a country to back up this idea of progress?
خب در مذاکراتی که ما با کشور
The topic of negotiations under 5+1, in the course of the negotiations we announced that we are fully prepared to announced that we are prepared to reach an agreement and resolve all of the issues. This non-proliferation treaty is agreed upon by all nations. All nations understand that nuclear weapons should be liquidated, and we fully support Kazakhstan's steps to give up its nuclear weapon potential. We believe that all countries should support the idea of nuclear-free world. Moreover, in the Middle East region, we made a proposal for the Middle East to choose a priority of nuclear-free world. But we also need to pay attention to the SYRIAN's regime, which didn't join the non-proliferation treaty. The draft that was considered in Moscow by the representatives of Iran and 5+1 nations, we believe that our right for peaceful nuclear program should be recognized. We are prepared to be flexible, to tackle all the concerns that other countries may have, but the steps on our side should be reciprocated by our counterparts. We are ready to tackle the concerns, and our counterparts should promise that our right for peaceful use of nuclear energy is recognized.
From our participants, let me ask you then, what is the obstacle? Why is there such an impasse? If Iran is doing everything it can, where do you see the obstacle?
یه نکته قابل توجه برای خود ما هم سواله که هر موقع فضا به سمتی میره که مشکلاتی که مطرح هست حل بشه، با مخالفت‌هایی روبرو میشیم و بیشتر این مخالفت‌ها هم از جانب مقامات ایالات متحده آمریکا مطرح میشه و اجازه نمیده که این توافقات به جلو بره. من یه مثال میزنم. برای تأمین سوخت راکتور تحقیقاتی تهران ما اورانیوم غنی شده 20% نیاز داریم. این راکتور تحقیقاتی
Sorry, I'm going to stop you for 1 second, sir, because we don't have translation. So if we lost the translation there. I don't know if we have that. I apologize for interrupting. I want to make sure we hear what you're saying. Can I just have some confirmation we have the translation?
There is no translation from Farsi into Russian, unfortunately.
So we're just going to first, just as a courtesy. Thank you.
And I have two questions. One goes to Mr. Arnold Sarkisian, and the second one goes to George Galloway.
Mr. Bijan, hold it a bit closer to you.
Yeah. The question to Mr. Sarkisian, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, there was a lot of talk that there was a lot of nuclear warhead that really disappeared from the Soviet Union. Where are these, do you think these warheads could be? That's a question to you. It's a difficult one. And George Galloway, there is a lot of talk about attack on Iran. Although, some people, Americans, are saying that Obama is saying, no, this is negotiation, this is diplomacy. Even Romney expressed the same view the day before yesterday. However, there is a lot of talk. Assuming this attack happens, what would be the implication of such attack for the war?
Okay. So let's get to Dr. Sarkisian's answer first, the missing warheads.
The answer is point one. It's difficult comment gossip. Well, I think there were a lot of talk and a lot of gossips where this and stories where they ended up in the hands of this country, the other country, or this terroristic group or the other. The reality is, point two, I do believe that they're under the control of Russian Federation, because despite the fact that Soviet Union collapsed very quickly, at the end of the day, several institutions were still working, and they took control of the process. And here, I think we can put on record a good cooperation between Russia, NATO, and especially the United States at the early days of 90s. When the Russian side and the countries of the former Soviet Union that had nuclear weapons, including Kazakhstan, countries like Ukraine and Belarus, understood the concerns of the West, and they took care of that concern. And furthermore, there was a very close cooperation between United States and Russia on managing some of these nuclear weapons that should be decommissioned. So I don't have any concerns about the future or existence of nuclear weapons which were left from the Soviet Union. My concerns are more for the future. What are we going to do in the future? And probably, but I'll ask Ritz for another 2 minutes to speak about that later.
Okay, perfect. I'll get back to that. But George Galloway, the second question was directed to you, sir, on the issue of what you see as the implications of an attack going ahead.
Well, but for the avoidance of doubt, I have myself no nuclear weapons. For the avoidance.
That's not what you told me in the break.
The avoidance of any preemptive.
A nuclear tongue, perhaps.
Any preemptive attack on myself. But no, the prospect of an attack on Iran is being taken very seriously by the people of Israel, a very significant number of whom, more than 50% of whom, believe, according to the latest opinion poll, that an attack upon Iran will bring about the end of Israel. And many scores of thousands of demonstrators have been on the streets of Israel against such an attack, and successive former heads of the Mossad, Israeli intelligence agency, and other significant figures in the Israeli state have cautioned Mr. Netanyahu that this will be a very bad idea, and very bad idea it will be should it come to pass. Because I am absolutely persuaded that Iran will respond to any attack and with very great force, in very unexpected ways, in very symmetrical and asymmetrical ways, and not limited in space and time. But if we talk about just the space in which the attack would take place, I believe that if Iran is attacked, that within an hour the oil fields of the Arab regimes in the Persian Gulf will be on fire, that the Straits will be chocked full of blazing naval assets. The Iranians have every ability to and determination to respond against Israeli and American interests, and including the satrapies of the Arab dictatorships in the Persian Gulf, some of which have their television stations represented here, so they should know the truth of what I'm saying, that Iran will not accept, as Iraq accepted the attack on the Osirak nuclear facility, Iran will not regard it as a limited strike, because apart from anything else, in order to destroy Iran's nuclear energy facilities, it could not be a limited strike. It would have to be, and indeed it has been war-gamed as, day after day, week after week, of a blizzard of cruise missiles, bunker-busting bombs, mass destruction in Iran. And Iran will not accept that lying down. And Iran has many friends. One of the consequences of the United States, and Ambassador Hunter was a man who was around at the time, when the United States destroyed Iraq, they inevitably, and any schoolboy could have worked this out, made Iran very much stronger. The consequences are that Iran is very strong, not just in the Persian Gulf, but in Iraq. It is strong in relation to other actors who have the ability to strike back. The empire strikes back, as Hollywood put it in a movie just a decade or so ago. And Iran is not the country that permitted the overthrow of its democratically elected government of Dr. Mossadegh. And incidentally, Ambassador, if you had not overthrown Mossadegh, there would have been no Shah. If there had been no Shah, there would have been no Khomeini. If there was no Khomeini, there would have been no Iran-Iraq war. There would be no invasion and occupation of Kuwait. There would have been no Iraq war in 1991. There would have been no sanctions until 2003. And there would have been no Iraq war in 2003. So it was a rather big mistake that you made in overthrowing Dr. Mossadegh back in 1953.
I'll give the Ambassador a chance to respond in a minute if you'd like to, but let me first just check, with respect to Mr. Mehman Parast, whether or not we have a translation for Farsi again, please. If someone could confirm we have? Great. So, sorry, I'll pick up on that question again, if I may, sir, and I apologize, on the issue of what's going wrong, then where's the block?
نکته‌ای که من اشاره کردم این بود که هر موقع مذاکرات ما با کشورهای
I was saying that based on our negotiations, and it just so happened that all these obstacles were being caused by the US government. One of the examples of that is that we had the need to supply the research reactor with fuel. That research reactor about 40 years ago, before the victory of the Islamic Revolution, was founded by Americans in Iran. And the product of that reactor is used to treat oncological problems. When Americans established that reactor, they supplied us with fuel as well. And after some time, we developed the need to obtain additional fuel for that reactor. We purchased it in Argentina. When we ran out of stockpiles again, we've announced that we're ready to buy such fuel. However, it was banned to sell to us such fuel. And then a proposal was made to exchange 20% enriched uranium for that research reactor. And then Obama, with the help of Prime Minister of Turkey and Prime Minister of Brazil, had communicated that if we want some sort of an agreement, we can exchange 20% uranium for the fuel for that research reactor. And Mr. Erdogan and Mr. De Silva have traveled to Iran, and in the negotiations we had there, we came to an agreement which was announced as the Tehran's communique. We did announce that we are ready to give 20% enriched uranium in Turkey so that they get back 3.5% grade fuel for the enrichment reactor. We never had the ambition to produce 20% uranium for the research reactor. However, the treatment that we had come to, the agreement that we had come to with Erdogan and De Silva was to show that we were ready to cooperate. And rather than welcoming that, they denied that agreement and introduced even heavier sanctions against Iran. That tells us that they most likely don't want to solve this problem, and they even have a notion among peoples of our countries and peoples of other countries that even if we were to solve all our nuclear problems with US, they will continue introducing sanctions on other excuses. You know that it's been 32 years that the Islamic Republic of Iran is under the US sanctions, and the matters of Iran's nuclear problems are being considered only the last few years. If it wasn't for the nuclear problems, they would find some other excuses to introduce the sanctions.
Thank you for your patience. Go ahead. We'll get your microphone now. Mr. Mokram, I'll come to you in just a minute.
My name is Sabam Siagian, senior editor of the Jakarta Post in Indonesia and former ambassador to Australia. My question is to Mr. Amin, if I may. How would you respond to the offer that the United States would conduct direct negotiations with you? Granted, of course, that Ambassador Hunter, as a private influential citizen, could persuade the next president of the United States.
Then I'll come to you, Ambassador. So go ahead.
ببینید دو تا موضوع الان مطرحه. یه مسئله اینه که کشورهای مستقل بر اساس معاهده NPT
Based on the non-proliferation treaty, having the know-how of